2, 1. All right. What is going on, everybody? This is Stu and David with Filling the Storehouse podcast. And I'm going to stop counting because, it's just, it's getting too hard for me.
Yeah, we just wanted you to stop embarrassing yourself, buddy. And we're good. We're good.
Yeah. So no more counting. This is going to be just one of the episodes with a number on the end of it. We have a pretty amazing guest today, Wes Lyons. He is a fellow Navy veteran, fellow Naval Academy graduate, and we connected quite a while ago, wasn't it, Wes? It was
a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, man. So Dave and I have been pretty open with our faith and kind of the background behind our business, and Wes reached out to me, and we connected and talked about real estate. We talked about being a Christian, an entrepreneur. We just had lots in common. He now lives in Dallas, which is where I'm from. His wife is from there. So just a super solid dude. And we wanted to have him on and talk about everything he's doing. So David, if you mind, could you give a little background of Wes?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So Wes is co-founder and general partner at Eagle Venture Fund, a business consultant for impact companies, and founder of Faithbased.co. Wes has previously co-founded a multi-strategy private equity fund, served as a wealth manager for high net worth clients, and completed 3 combat tours fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Wes is a certified financial planner and certified kingdom advisor. He has a passion for helping investors and entrepreneurs heal and restore what has been broken. Welcome, Wes. Excited to have you, buddy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So it's you said it's not quite hot there in Dallas, because I know it's coming soon, right?
No, I'm treasuring these 70 days. I know they're numbered.
They are numbered. I tell you, it's going to get hot real fast and real humid, but it's all good. Well, cool, man. So faith-based investing. What does that mean? What is faith-based investing? If you could kind of just talk about your business and what it is and what that really means.
It's a great question. I think a lot of people have stumbled on what is faith-based investing, and I really stumbled on it when I first became a certified financial planner. Kind of went saying, "All right, my faith matters to me. I come from a missionary family. How do I integrate my life with what I'm doing?" And what I found were companies that they would take, for instance, the S&P 500 and say, "Let's get the sin out. Basically, let's get the alcohol and tobacco out." And it wasn't inspiring the way it was done, and their performance was poor, and I ended up kind of giving up on it. But for many people who have taken a look, that's all they see for faith-based investing. Then I got a chance through being general partner in a couple of private equity funds to meet amazing Christians building amazing businesses that were just loving people, and they caught a picture of wow. Essentially, these moments where I go, wow, that is what business was supposed to be. They're just touching the people they love. They're making money. They're growing. And they clearly have work-life balance. Like, all the fruit and all the aspects of their lives and their businesses looks amazing. And I've come back now to public markets saying, all right, well, I think I've seen what business was supposed to be. How do we find that and build that in the public markets for the everyman investor? Because most people aren't accredited investors, aren't going to be doing angel investments or Reg D deals and things like that, and that's where what we call now dual mandate investing, and at faithbasedinvesting.co. The reason I founded it was finding there are some advisors who are really good at taking these beautiful pictures of what business are supposed to be and building portfolios along that thesis. So we built that business around making it easy to find those advisors that are really good at what we call dual mandate investing. The one being financial and the other being the impact that they have on the world and all the other fruit besides dollars of a business.
So what's the what would be the definition of dual mandate investing?
It's I was just talking about this with one of the CEOs of a faith-based fund company today. There've been a lot of arguments about like what is and what isn't. So we're basically putting financial return on one axis and impact a company has on another, and saying, going to the top right of the quad slide is the mandate, positive impact um, and financial return. How you do that, if you're good at it, and we'll vet you to see if we think you're good at it, is kind of free reign from there. I mean, kind of like we have freedom in the way we walk out with Christ. How do you love people? I mean, there's so many ways to love people, right? So
Yeah.
there's going to be so many ways to invest along those mandates. And then we educate our advisors on all the ways to do it and things like that. But it's taking those two mandates hand in hand. For one advisor, it might look like Dimensional Fund Advisors, massive fund company. They have some really good screens, and it's basically passive investing with some screening, and they say this is the way I do it best. And if they really get how they're doing it, I'll say that's faith-based investing, really good screening. That's how they live it out. And others are going to say, well, I'm getting into early stage impact companies in Ghana that are transforming lives and digging wells, and like there's just so many iterations of what it might look like. It's about holding those two in tension and trying to go to the top right of that quad slide. Kind of skirting the question, but that's how I answer it.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I just, my brain is going here and just thinking about, wow, there's just so many different ways that you can go and so many different companies and opportunities. And, so I kind of want to dig into this a little bit further down the road as far as, kind of what companies you guys are looking at and how you even analyze a company and dig into what that means. Cause, the previous show that we did with Warrior's Heart, and they have, the for-profit side of it, but then they also have a foundation that attaches to it, and it's a healing center, like suicidal prevention, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they really talk about is making, human business decisions versus making, bottom line decisions. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit more, but kind of backstep a little bit. Like, what's your why? What's driving you, to do this faith-based investing? What's kind of the purpose and the why behind it all?
At the very, it was really difficult for me to figure it out, and I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult for other people, if that makes sense. I mean, I spent years of giving up, feeling frustrated, and it's just an expression of the Lord's put it on my heart for a really long time. I just love investing, and I feel it's just grown in passion as I pursue the Lord. It just comes out. My calling is to walk with investors and entrepreneurs, like you said, who are bringing healing and restoration to things that are broken in the world. There's so many things that are broken in the world, and in many cases, for-profit businesses are much, much more effective at seeing that transformation. So Jesus' heart beats for the poor and the widow and the orphan. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of players in the nonprofit space trying to touch the poor and widow and the orphan. There's not that many people helping the entrepreneurs or trying to create ecosystems around what if we built businesses that were repeatably, scalably changing the lives of the poor and the widow and the orphans. I feel like that's more of a blue ocean, where nonprofit side, and it's just my calling and passion is how do you touch the poor and the widow and the orphan through business? So
that's great, man. And I mean, just being good stewards, right, of what God provides, right?
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
That's awesome. And I think it's super appealing to what, Stu and I do, and just the, the mandate behind our business, and Storehouse 310 being biblically based. But you and I had a conversation when we were prepping for this that I found very intriguing. And it was, you were kind of highlighting to me, for those that don't necessarily share our faith, the partnerships, and because, what I don't want to be lost is faith first and Christ first, and just like we run our business, but it's also to be effective and to be businessmen and women, right? And can you talk about that a little bit? I found that to be very intriguing.
What is the question? can you help me? What is the question you're asking?
Yeah, sure.
I totally agree with the statement.
Right. It's just like so when you're going through and vetting it, is it just for Christians? Is it just Christian businesses? Like, what
Oh yeah,
is the bigger
no,
picture?
So like for Eagle Venture Fund is a great example. We market ourselves as a values-based company that's looking for this double bottom line of significant impact and significant returns, and we take investment from all kinds of different people, and we kind of structure it up to where we say, hey, we're a values-driven company. This is why values-driven companies win. They win in the talent battles. They win. They do transform through the things that they do, but there's competitive advantages in truly values-driven companies. And we're trying to kind of coach out the question, so what are your values? Oh, so now that you asked, I'm happy to share, but not trying to lead with, is there such thing as a Christian company? There's plenty of argument there. But hey, values drive these companies, and here's the competitive advantages to values-driven companies. So it's amazing companies that are doing transformational things. It's table stakes. I mean, profit is like breathing for a company. It's not the reason the company exists, but you don't get along without it. You don't survive long without it, and you don't scale without it either. That's actually the fundamental difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit. Nonprofits only scale as much as the gifts come in. A for-profit, if you have a transformative business model that makes profit as it grows and can, it's the sky's the limit of what they can do. That really requires profit and amazing companies. Those are really hard to build.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what's awesome about it is, as we look at it, Stu and I want to have a very effective business with the recognition, exactly as you highlighted. We could have the best intentions in the world, and we absolutely feel that, even like with this podcast, for example, it's our faith, family, and financial freedom, in that order, and there's such a powerful mandate when you have your priorities aligned appropriately and correctly, from our standpoint. But there's also that huge piece that you hit on. You have to have an effective business. You have to run your business on more than goodwill. You have to have effective business plans. You have to understand how to make profit. You have to really, none of this stuff is driven forward without being able to effectively have a business and make money, and then turn that money into potentially more money, and from our, for Storehouse, and to give that money. And if we're making more money, we're giving a lot more money, and those kind of go hand in hand. I think it's a huge point that you hit on. I really appreciate that. And the other side of that is, every one of our investors isn't necessarily a Christian. But what we've found is the vast majority of our investors, they want to do something of a higher purpose, of a better good, and I think those are key points that you hit on. It's pretty awesome. There's something for everybody in this. And I think you also hit on the fact that everybody can grow business wise, but also personally through the process.
Yeah, I would say what you all are doing really fits as in what I would call faith-based investing, because you're doing something redemptive, and you're looking hard about how to do it in a redemptive way. And I think a lot of people want to get close to a deal, and I've talked to people who have said, like, oh, I really looked at all the options and just couldn't get excited kind of from a faith perspective about the S&P 500. So I got into real estate because I knew that inherently putting roofs over heads is redemptive. It's one of the things in Matthew 6 that actually, does he talk about? Maybe it's not in Matthew 6. He does say you'll have food and clothing. He doesn't say roof over your head, but it's a core need.
He should have.
It's implied. It's implied.
Yeah. I've wondered about that. Why isn't housing in there? I think it's a basic need, but it is, regardless, it's inherently redemptive. And if you're doing it in a redemptive way, it's just a cool way for people to get close to the deal and see the redemption in their investment. So I think it's a great example. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So do you have speaking of real estate, how does real estate kind of contribute to the faith-based investing world? I mean, is there room for that? Do you guys kind of work in that field at all?
Yeah, we're actually we're incubating a fund right now. There's a large nonprofit that they put couples into apartment communities, and they just love on the people there. And they've seen immense fruit from that's a nonprofit actually, where and the amazing combinations that we're talking about, significant impact and significant returns going hand in hand, is they put it in there to go make a difference on those people's lives, to share the gospel, to serve those people, and to truly serve the tenants. And then they've seen this consistent lift in they have a better online reputation, more people are renewing, like all the things that somebody who's managing 200 units wants to see. They've done a major study on hundreds of properties, and go figure, if you love on people really, really purposefully, more people want to live there. It really works.
That's crazy.
So we're actually incubating a real estate fund with this nonprofit to really to see that lived out and to see it come to fruition. And it's kind of cool because many people are kind of like ready to dip their toes in the water, have heard about faith-based investing, but it's like kind of sashimi nigiri. One of my friends likes to say, like, you don't, but they really need to start with like California roll. Like, oh yeah, I know multifamily real estate. Oh, you're just putting them like somebody in there to love people. All right, I can understand. Like,
hey, and what I think is just another awesome point that you make is this isn't just touchy-feely stuff either, right? This is
Sure.
no kidding, data-driven, like, yeah, it's hard to measure and quantify, okay, I love on somebody this much. I love on them 10, and, the return is whatever. But like that's not possible. But it's not just a feel-good thing. You guys actually have data points that show and metrics that show that increase and whatever it is, lease renewal, income, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I was just working on the graphs yesterday, and it was just like city by city, just showing how much they were beating the market, and it was just how satisfied are the customers. And it's a totally different look to say, well, that's your impact showing up in satisfied customers, And then just story after story of, their stories are amazing of just how they've gotten to love on people.
So one of the things that we have in our notes that you wanted us to kind of talk about is just that, the faith-based private companies performance versus just regular companies. And I mean, how do you track that? What does the data show when you're kind of looking at that kind of stuff?
I think in this sector, when we're talking about faith-driven companies, the most relevant study that's been done is C12. I think they've got something on the order of 2,000 or 3,000 CEOs. They do roundtables, 12 by 12, all around the country. They ran a 10-year study to compare against similar size and sector companies, because you don't want to just benchmark against anything weird. Benchmark against your size and your sector. And on average, I would have to look at the graphs, but they outperformed. I want to say they grew revenue 2.5 times faster. This is on hundreds of companies across 10 years, and profit grew 3.4 times faster. It wasn't a slight outperformance. It was a crushing defeat of the enemy. It's over a decade and over hundreds and hundreds of companies. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. And I think at its core, one of the ones that's most obvious to see is you retain awesome talent when you love your people. And if you're in the impact space, if you move towards like, hey, we're trying to transform community, every kid graduating from Harvard this year, it's probably an overstatement, a high percentage of Harvard graduates are hunting for social impact startups. When you have true social impact, the interns that they pull in are either London School of Economics, MIT, Harvard. It's like basically you get the pick of the litter if you can change the world and make money. The talent, you just win the talent battle in spades, and then you win the retention battle in spades. That's just one easy way to show why are these companies winning. If you get the best people and hold on to them, you're probably going to win. So.
Yeah, and I want to anchor on that for a second, and for our listeners out there that are thinking about starting businesses, and when you look at it, it's not just about the external mission potentially. It's not just about how you look at the world from, like when Stu and I with Storehouse 310, we look at the world and say, okay, we make money, we give money to this organization, it helps, feed, care for, do whatever for these folks, but what a great focus. And that's something that, Stu and I recently were able to do with our first hire, but is, you hit on as far as the focus on what you want the internal workings of your business to look like, who you want to be there, what kind of culture you want to set. And I think that's something that Stu, we haven't necessarily hit on as much, but what a great point in spending time, the time you spend to cultivate that culture within your business. It has some, I mean, you can't even measure how that pays back.
So, and how like,
Yeah.
um, how do you test that? I mean, how do you like from a financial planner, how are you going and finding these companies and doing an analysis on this company and making the decision to tell people that they need to invest in a company like that? I mean, I feel like,
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be kind of hard.
There's kind of two hats. What comes to mind first is in the public market space, one of the companies that does this really well is Eventide Asset Management. They have a whole process they call Business 360, and they're looking at all things like what does Glassdoor say at the company? Is it a great is it a great place to work? What's that term for your customer satisfaction rating? They just basically, how happy are your customers? How much do they love you? How much do people love to work there? They have a whole proprietary strategy on exactly these types of questions, like stakeholder mentality. How do you love your community? How do you love your people? How do you love your customers? And they've been outperforming significantly. Their healthcare fund especially has been averaging some significant outperformance. And obviously, I think supposed to always caveat that with just because they have performed well in the past doesn't mean they will in the future. But they're just a great example of, they go hunting with this thesis that great companies make the world rejoice, investing that makes the world rejoice. And they've really taken a hard look at how to find companies that do that. And to date, it's been really paying off.
And you guys, it seems like you hold each other accountable as well. Like you said that you previously in a previous conversation, you mentioned that you have free educational webinars where you have the advisors come in and explore and challenge one another with different ways to and better ways to invest in line with your values. Like what does that look like? It sounds to me like you have a almost like a mastermind where you challenge each other to be better and outdo each other.
Yeah, I wish that I had that type of setting when I was trying to build faith-based portfolios for an RIA there in the Mid-Atlantic. And how the fastest way to test your ideas is to get out in front of people, say, it's like a board in the military, right? Here's how I would attack the problem, then have a ton of people tell you whether you're wrong or not. So that's what I have been trying to create in those webinars. And just there's some kind of cutting edge ideas like this month that'll be on social impact bonds. Trying to get an expert on social impact bonds where a for-profit vehicle has been created that pays out usually from a government based on social change, like if these group of refugees were able to get jobs or something like that. Helping folks figure out, well, where might that fit in somebody's financial plan? Would it be in a donor advised fund that's already been given away? Are they financially robust enough to actually put into a portfolio? That's diving into topics to try to help people understand, hey, here's a cutting edge way to try to drive impact. Could it fit in your world? How are other people using it? That sort of thing. So.
It's pretty cool, man. So what's the goal behind this all? What's your goal with faith-based investing and Eagle Venture Fund?
That's a good question. I mean, the Lord has really pushed me that about really setting him as the center of it. I think when I look at the outcomes, to probably more specifically answer the question, I really want to see the faith-based investing space grow and the language really be unified and sometimes it can get a little divisive about like which thing is sin and which thing is not, to unify around, hey, let's go love people, let's go figure out how to do it, to see it really grow and to see those impacts multiply. It's loving God and loving people through this one little facet of our life called investing, you know?
Yeah, we have a lot of very entrepreneurial partners and investors and military folks just like us, right? That listen to the show or invest with us personally. And I'm just kind of curious, like how does everything that you described intersect with what they do to help them to achieve their highest and best? Like, what are the practical ways in which there's some natural synergy between folks like us and what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think very specifically, faithbasedinvesting.co was built to solve a specific problem. If these types of ideas of dual mandate investing and making a difference resonate, I've gone through and vetted the best advisors in America to do that have the right certifications and that really get this. So that site is built to make it really easy to find them. And then I think just getting around, hanging out on podcasts like this, getting around people that are doing it and pushing one another makes a lot of sense as well. Those are the things that come to mind.
This is this is a little off of script, but it kind of just brought to mind, for me, so David and I are trying to grow this business, Storehouse 310, and from what you've seen in your experience of really looking at companies, within this kind of faith-based investing world, like what type of advice would you give to a company like us, to really grow our business, kind of in the light that you're looking at?
It's a good question. Slightly trite, but to start with why is really powerful, that Simon Sinek talks about, to really, if your heart moves on this idea of like, all right, how do we really iterate on trying to make a positive impact through the processes, to start to articulate when we're looking at an early stage company on how we test them on how they treat their employees and how they treat society and how they treat the community and their suppliers. And the worst score, it's a Likert 1 to 5. The worst score is, look, everybody, if they're not interested, they're probably not talking to us, right? Like, oh yeah, I want to make a difference. But it marches up as you start to write down, okay, I really want to love on my employees, let me write down a plan for it. And then it marches up further if you can measure success. Like, all right, we have a plan and we know what success looks like. We can be held yay or nay, we're actually hitting it. And then you can iterate from there. So if we were evaluating a company, just taking a look at the people that your company really touches and starting out with, all right, how do we touch their lives? And for employees, that usually looks like having good compensation and great training and chances to have ownership and whatever. Asking them what are on their hearts, what are their dreams, and for the community it would be different and things like that. That's what comes to mind. I don't know if it's helpful.
That's very helpful. We're extremely about action items. And that's one thing that, Stu and I, so you probably would turn us down if we were coming to you right now, but, we've not spent a ton of, so we prioritize, our employees, our investors and our teammates. And it's really a huge priority for us, when it comes to everything from paying them and how our resources are allocated, but to write it out, I think is a huge action item that, Stu and I will definitely take for action. That's great. And asking them, hey, how can we, from your perspective, how can we make you help you to achieve your highest and best. And I think just asking those questions, writing them out, developing a plan, those are awesome action items. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us, because I'm definitely taking that from that gem for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so like we've talked a lot about in the past, and the book Start With Why has come up multiple times, and it's actually one of our questions that we used when we were interviewing a potential administrative assistant. We just hired an administrative assistant, and we took a long time to try to find the right person, and we asked them what their why is, and have they read the book Start With Why, or if they watched the TED Talk. And so we've kind of got that down. We have our we have our why. We use the book Traction to kind of look, put our business plan in place, and our goals and our purpose and our mission. But something like what you just talked about of having a plan on how we're really going to impact our team members, and like Dave, for you and me, our action items are we got to come up with some data and some metrics that show how we're supporting our team. That's pretty cool, man. That's powerful stuff. Any other thoughts? I mean,
Cool.
Can you give us some more action items here, man? Come on, let's go. We need some.
I got my pen. I'm taking notes.
I mean, one of the things you have to go figure out is what standard market rates are on some things, so that you may think you're doing a great job in compensation, and then find out, oh, I thought I was doing awesome. That just took me to average, or just exploring. It can really touch your value statements and your mission statements as well. I was just talking to a founder who he just said, hey, the goal of this company is to enrich the lives of service workers. That he's acquiring a ton of companies, and his whole goal is to enrich the lives of service workers. So it can really sneak its way into, or powerfully sneak its way into, your mission and purpose statements. And I think you all really touch the lives of your investors in a more powerful way than many situations, but really trying to think, with those bake into your vision and mission, and that it starts to cascade into your traction items, right? What's our why for each of those, for our employees, for our investors, for our families, things like that, so that it starts to translate into true action. So
That's good stuff. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Wes. That is, we love nothing more than coming out of these with action items. So really
cool.
appreciate
I'm glad
it.
it's helpful.
No, it's great. And I am absolutely sure that it will be helpful for our listeners as well, as they navigate some of these thoughts. Cause and that's part of the point to your group as well. And to how the advisors challenge each other to be better. Our masterminds, all these things that we do, these are the reasons, right? Stu and I potentially could have gone another couple years thinking we're doing great, and our employees could be like, man, those guys, they're not even paying us the going rate. And we wouldn't know that, because in our minds and our hearts, we're prioritizing what we think is awesome for our team members. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we may be missing the mark, because it really should be data driven. It really should be well thought out. It really should be based in why. And so that's awesome. That's great. Great advice. So maybe down the line a little bit will be a fund that folks are wanting to invest in. So we'll be talking more. We'll be talking more on that for sure. Hey, we love also talking about and asking our guests, this especially this conversation, very feel good, very focused on highest and best, and helping others out and focusing outward. I imagine that, particularly right now with COVID, that's very germane, that there are some hard times, particularly in investing. But I'm just kind of curious on when things fell apart, and what some of the challenges you faced, and what you did when you faced that adversity.
Yeah, I was trying to think through that last night as I was saw the question was coming. I'm like, which failure should I bring up? The one, I know a lot of folks that listen here have experience with the military, and the one that just really popped in my mind is twice in 2 weeks, when I was a navigator on a P3, I left classified material sitting out. and got in a lot of trouble for it. I was on the hot fast track to have every great job and everything was going well, check mark, check mark, check mark, and had the sweet job that stripped away from me and was kind of the goat of the squadron for a while, just based on misplacing, just boneheaded, not paying attention that I was
I'm
leading
assuming by
class
GOAT,
sitting
you're
out.
not talking about greatest of all time, right?
No. No, I just felt really, really down, and it really, I think the Lord was trying to get a hold of me that to let go of this idea of looking successful in front of people. He really so much wants me to pursue Him instead of looking at, because I looked really, really unsuccessful, just dumb in front of everybody that I worked with. And the Lord blessed me and allowed me to dig out of that over the next couple of years to go on to be very successful there. But that moment was such an awful, that the moment went on for a while. You keep walking into work and keep dealing with the fallout of the investigations that happen and things like that. And I think the Lord just loved me enough to try to shake me up, and I'm still learning it many years later, trying to remember that He wants my heart and He wants me to love the people around me way more than He wants the number one EP or the big investment return or whatever it is in that season of life.
No, that's huge. And being a cryptologic warfare officer myself, I fully understand the sensitivities and that's a significant impact. There are, security violations and the follow-on investigations are just a huge part of, what we do and considerations within my small realm in the military. So no, thank you for sharing that. That I imagine it was highly stressful and not a fun time at all. So thank you for sharing that.
David likes
no
always
fun.
David likes to always throw out that he's like, super secret guy, like super top secret guy. Hey, I'm so cool. I'm super top secret guy.
I don't know if I've ever thrown that out, not one time, because it's not really that cool. And Stu, as an action item, I hope that he wrote down how to treat partners, and I'm assuming that when we talk about employees, partners is part of that. Is that not true, Wes?
Hey, it's just all love. The more I make fun of you, it just means I love you more.
Yeah, I had a boss that told me, you kick the ones you love. He always told me that after he made fun of me, but he's like, hey, Goody, you kick the ones you love. And then he'd walk out and I'd be like, thanks, boss. Appreciate
it. Good stuff. Hey, Wes, what would you say is, a favorite resource or educational item, that you personally have used to kind of help you grow, or something that you suggest for others?
One space that has been pulling together a lot of material and a good podcast is faith-driveninvestor.org. Henry Kastner and the guys that are doing the Faith-Driven Investor site are doing a great job. And then two books that I've loved as I continually iterating on this idea of how to invest in a way that honors the Lord. One is Practicing the King's Economy, and the other is Completing Capitalism. Those two books have been really kind of eureka moments in just unpacking, all right, Lord, how do we do this? I want to honor you, if that makes sense.
What was that second book? I'm sorry.
Completing Capitalism. I'm clicking on the author. I can pull it up in Audible.
We'll find it. We'll definitely put these in the show notes, and I will order them tomorrow for me to read. That's good stuff.
I've got a stack of books going. We have guests, and as they give their book recommendations, I surely cannot keep up. So hopefully they offer these in listen to books, audio books, and we'll get it going.
Audible at 1.5 speed. That's the way. That's how I try to keep up.
My kids, it's hilarious because I listen to everything 1.5 to 2.0 speed. And I was listening to some podcast doing laundry the other night, and my kids walk in, they're like, what are you listening to? Because it's so fast, but I mean, hey, it gets it done. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to see another one just like me. Hey, follow-on question. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I kind of was touching on it earlier, but this idea of don't stress about being successful. The Lord keeps pushing me on setting Him as the object of my desire and loving the people around me, which isn't surprising. He said the whole Testament distilled down into that. Obviously that's really, really key. But the Lord keeps showing me that in this world of impact investing, we can get really kind of off on a rabbit trail about making an impact, but that's actually just the fruit. The root is pursuing Jesus, and I mean, he said it in John 15. If you hang out really closely with me, if you abide in me, then you'll bear much fruit. And I think I've been very tempted and wish I could go back to my younger self and say, don't worry about being successful. Don't worry about the impact. Pursue Jesus, and then the fruit will come. I'm still trying to convince myself that of every morning when I wake up and sip coffee and try to get my head in the game. So something to that effect is what I would say. So.
There's actually that's awesome, man. So I'm actually reading another book. If you want to put that in your repertoire, it's called A Better Way. It's by Ryan Haley, and he actually was a fellow Navy guy with us. He was a helicopter pilot, and he's down in at Charis Bible College, which is in Colorado, south of us. And he just wrote a book, A Better Way, and it touches all on just what you said. About not just stressing out about trying to be successful all the time, and there's a better way, and God has that way for you, and He has a plan, and you just need to let Him. You need to allow for Him to guide you there, and not try to do it all on your own and stress about it. So it's a really good book. I think we're going to try to have him on our podcast pretty soon too.
Awesome. I want to listen to it.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's good. Well, what's another piece of advice that you would give to somebody else? Besides just the one thing that you'd give to your own self. Either a veteran or someone who's wanted to kind of get into what you're doing. Where would you send them? What would you tell them?
Two things come to mind. There's some big opportunities if folks are looking at actually becoming a certified financial planner and getting into that world. I would steer them hard towards, there's lots and lots of baby boomers that have built practices that need succession plans. That's way, way more interesting to me than going and starting up at Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones. And there's the whole divide in the world between a lot of advisors mostly work on commission, which is not nearly as fun because you have the conflict of interest that you live with every single day than the fee-only advisors that just get paid and get to go find the best investments for their clients and don't have to kind of live with the continuous tension of being paid on commissions. So I would, if somebody's looking at getting into the CFP world, I would steer them hard towards the fee-only or fee-based direction. And there's just a lot of individual firms that there's just a wave of baby boomers looking for talented guys like that have been through something and probably have a ton of integrity, like basically junior officer getting out, that sort of thing. And then if they're trying to get into business and leading businesses, kind of more of the entrepreneur role, to either go to school or get in, like you all have started doing something, and you're going to take off and do that. But it's much, much more powerful to say, hey, I've done this project on the side. I'm already moving. How can I get involved in something like this, than to say, I want to go lead a company, but I haven't gone to school for it or I haven't started it. So I'd say either go to school and show that you're en route, or get involved in some sort of side gig where it's clear that you're en route. Because it sounds like a big lift to take somebody that hasn't been doing anything in the business sector from 0 to 60, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And follow-on question. So in your bio, you say you're a certified financial planner and a certified kingdom advisor. What's a certified kingdom advisor?
That's a good question. So Certified Kingdom Advisor, the group came out and just put together a whole course and vetting criteria on basically what does the Bible have to say about money, really focused on the financial planning process. Like, hey, is insurance biblical? Let's really dig into this. When is it biblical? Hey, what does the Bible have to say about debt? When does it make sense? Just really diving deep into every aspect of the financial planning process and really getting some great tools from a biblical perspective. I'm a big fan of the organization. I got the certification. It answered a ton of questions that had been hanging in my mind, like so many eureka moments going through their courses. Ron Blue's the founder, and he's just got an amazing anointing for teaching, specifically teaching advisors to help their clients. So when I was starting a business about how to find an advisor, I was like, well, they have checked so many boxes, from vetting people and getting recommendations from your pastor and the commitments that people make to live biblically and the training they've done. It's really a subset underneath the Kingdom Advisor culture that I'm looking for to send people to. So.
That's cool, man. So there's so is there multiple companies, or is there kind of just one company that gives that certification? I mean, that sounds super interesting. Like I might go try to take it myself.
It's one organization that gives the certification. I think there's closing on 1,000 certified Kingdom Advisors. They have a find a CKA function on their website if you're looking for one, or you can sign up and take the courses and stuff. I think if you Google Kingdom Advisor, it's the first thing that comes up, I think.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
What grade level do you have to be able to read at? Take the course.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, not really. It's more for a friend. I'm asking for a friend who may be interested in achieving the qualification.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Knew that was coming.
No, I'm just curious. No, Stu, I'm looking out for you always, because it's part
No.
of my primary goals to make sure that I am a good partner and help you to achieve your highest and best.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Turning a new leaf. And it's interesting. You are our second certified financial planner, and you talked about, we had Dr. Mills on previously, and they're always looking for talent and the process they go through, and he kind of highlighted some of that and vetting the folks and looking for good people, and faith-based business as well. He was actually my pastor before he went into financial advisement. So obviously I'll make a natural connection between you and Dr. Mills at a later date. But I think what's really interesting, and not that this show is necessarily a financial advisor show, but you guys have such varied backgrounds, and you're so versed in so many different things and different strategies. And I think there's a ton of value in that. And when people talk about having coaches and working through this process, it's interesting, because in finances, a lot of times folks will want to own the process themselves. But, if you're playing a sport, you have a coach, and the coach teaches you that sport. If you're going to be a doctor, you go to school, you have mentors, you have teachers. And I think finances is something so important. It's equally as important to have wise advisors and folks to help you through those investments. So I think that's awesome. Yeah. And that's a perfect segue, not giving myself credit. Of course, it's all credit goes to you, but how can our listeners get in touch with you? How can they move forward and potentially get connected with someone who's got the same values they do and really is, can be a wise sounding board for them, an advisor?
Yeah, going to faithbasedinvesting.co is the way to find an advisor, and there's a contact us button that goes that I get the emails if they got questions directly from me, or on the early stage companies and real estate side for accredited investors, eagleventurefund.com. That's the other side of my work. So.
Dude, this has been a treat. It's I got lots of notes here, lots of action items.
Both ways, this is fun.
Mainly for David, he's got lots of action items that we're going to come out of this. I'm going to task him big time. We have these projects management software, Asana, and I task him left and right. It's awesome. But
it's for those of you looking for a management system, Asana is awesome, but also has a silence function, which is very, very effective.
But seriously, man, we really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. some great, just super powerful nuggets of information that we can take out of this. And I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Likewise.
thanks,
For the
Wes. I
time
think
today.
I think our listeners, there's a ton of value, not from the podcast, not from the podcast alone, but also just future connections. So hopefully, folks will reach out to you and really, it doesn't hurt to at least explore the different avenues that you have and potentially get you will come away with either action items or smarter than you went into that conversation. So really appreciate you offering that up, offering yourself and dropping some wisdom on us. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll put how to get in touch with Wes in the show notes. We'll put all of his references and resources, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Please share it. Please tell people about this podcast. We want to add value to people's lives and share this with as many people as you can. So, you guys have an amazing week, and go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day.
See ya.